Hello and welcome to this week's episode of My CP Does Not Define Me, where we focus less on the this and more on the ability of what we can do. Join us each and every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, live on the Facebook Live. Looking forward to seeing you there.
What's up, everybody? It's D to the J with a roll away, and it is time for episode 160 of My CP Does Not Define Me, and boy, do we got a good one. Get yourselves ready, because this one's going to knock your head off, I can guarantee you. If you're wearing one, you might want to secure it with some staples or some paper clips or something. But I tell you, we got a show and a half. I am thrilled to have one of my close personal friends that I've known for just a little bit of time, actually, Captain Jack Morgan. And I want to tell you, he is a man of many talents, just to say the least, from virtual reality to a builder, to a motivator, a teacher. Want to welcome everybody to the show as you come in. Please feel free to leave us a comment and please share our podcast as we go live. Captain Jack, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to have you. Would you do us a favor and just, for those of us who don't know the wonderful Captain Jack, please introduce yourself and share a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Greetings and salutations, one and all. It is I, Captain Jack Morgan, and I am blessed to be here on the DJ's podcast. My CP Does Not Define Me. I appreciate for you having me here. What do I do? Well, how long do we have in the podcast? That's a long list. Let me see. To narrow it down a little bit, I am the CEO and founder of Morgan Enterprises on Horizon Worlds, and we're always looking for talented young minds that want to come in and build and make it a better place in Horizons for 2025 and beyond. In real life, I am an in-home caretaker that I have my patients that I take care of, and it's a very challenging career, but it's a very rewarding one as well. So. Due to HIPAA violations, I can't get into too much detail regarding the situation, but I can say that I've been dealing with it for many years now, and I do love my job.
Awesome. Hey, Kayla, welcome to the show. Kimberly, thank you for being here. Always, Kristen, welcome. The first question I want to ask, because that right there, it takes a kind soul to do what you do. How did you get involved? How did you know that this is what this is what you wanted to do as far as the caretaking part? How did you get into it?
Well, it really started a long time ago with my father. I was adopted at 5 days old by an English mother and an Irish father. Normally, people hear the accent and they say, "Well, oh, you must be from the UK." I said, "Actually, no, I'm from California," and they look at me stupid. They have no idea. They said, "I didn't realize people in California sound like you." But I was like, well, they don't normally. But anyways, my adopted parents, they were actually considerably older. My father was 50 years old when they adopted me. So you can imagine me being a teenager, he's in his 60s trying to play basketball with me. It didn't really work out too well. Unfortunately, he passed away when he was 81. I was the only one with him when he passed away. He passed away of a massive heart attack, and it was really hard to watch him die right in front of me. But at least I know that he's in a much better place. That was back in 2005. So it's been 20 years come June since I lost my father. But anyways, he was falling ill before that, obviously, and he needed help. And so I was, helping around the house to help take care of him, help him get his meals, help to make sure that he got to his doctor's appointments and whatnot, because they wouldn't let him drive anymore. He would just need the constant care. And I did everything that I could to help him out. And I just decided at an older age that this was something I knew I could do, because I knew I had the patience. I knew I had the want, the desire to try to to help others to the best way that I could. I've worked in customer service for many years of my life in all different aspects, whether it be in a grocery store or a department store, or doing security was another thing that I had achieved. Every position, all the way to public relations director for that. And so I've had many. I'm a man of many hats.
So, do you believe that your father's journey prepared you for the home health part of the journey that you were going to take on?
I think it did. I mean, it really brought a new perspective to life, that life is incredibly short and you really should not take it for granted, because you never know what could happen. Days before, actually, he went into hospital the day before he ended up passing away.
Mm-hmm.
And what he did is he got up out of his chair and tried to walk across the living room floor, and he lost his equilibrium and just fell to the right, and he put his head through the wall. Now, mind you, he's an 81-year-old man, and he put his head straight through the wall.
Ooh.
And he hit with that much force. And we thought he had to go to hospital because, for damage done to his head and what. No, what had ended up happening after having I think is, oh my goodness, I'm having the brain fart right now. It's the ultrasound of the heart is what they ended up doing.
EKG.
Well, it wasn't just the EKG. It was they actually had him laying on his side, where they took an actual ultrasound machine and went over his heart to get pictures of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, so they were doing that to him. And I remember they asked me for help. They said, he's acting like a 5-year-old. He won't sit still. And can you help us? I'm like, okay, no problem. So I went downstairs with him, and he was being very fidgety. He didn't want to sit still. And I remember this, and I'll remember this for the rest of my life, that after he was done, and they say, okay, sir, you're finally done, you can go back upstairs, he actually turned and looked at me, and what he said to me is what I'll never forget, because I didn't understand at the time what he was meaning. But it wasn't until the very next day after he passed that I understood what he meant. When he turned, he looked at me straight in my eyes, and he said, I get to go home now. Now, I thought he meant go home like our home is. Oh, I don't know, Dad. You'll have to talk to the doctors. It's up to them.
Wow.
He already knew. He knew he wasn't going to survive for very long, and it was just his way of telling me he gets to go home. And I'm thinking he wanted to prepare me. The very next day, when I came in to see him in the morning, I went into the room that he shared with another individual. He had the second bed closer to the window. And I walked through the door, and I saw the gentleman in the first bed, and then the curtain was pushed up almost all the way to the foot of his bed, and I could tell the foot of his bed was all flat, like it was a made bed. And I just flipped my lid. I said, where the bleep is my father? And blah, blah. He was sitting in a chair reading the newspaper. He's like, oh, hi, you. I'm like, you know what? If you weren't sick, I'd kill you myself. How dare you give me this heart attack right now, thinking that something was wrong. Oh, no, I'm fine. So I'm thinking he's going to go home. Less than 2 hours later, he passed away.
Man.
Wow.
So it was incredible, but it was. People think I'm morbid for saying this, but I wouldn't change it for anything, because I know that I was with him. I know he wasn't alone, and that's a lot of people's big fear, is they don't know when it's their time, are they going to be alone when the big moment happens?
That's
my fear.
That was my, until I met Kim, that was my biggest fear, dying alone. I have heard scientists say, and I've heard people say that do home health, because when they a lot of them stay with them until their last gasp of air. They have these moments of clarity where they're talking to you, and you're like, "This person's sick." What? Like it's it's so clear, and it's such a wonderful conversation. And then 2 to 8 hours later, or 24 hours later, they're gone. But I guess the question that I want to ask you now is, I know in Virginia it is a hell in a handbasket to find a caretaker that is passionate about, because I don't believe that it's a job. I believe it's a lifestyle, because
Mhm.
you have to devote yourself to what you do. You can't just like it and survive. I've never known a home health person or an educator or anybody that's involved in 24-hour care that that doesn't devote themselves to their patient.
Right.
Um, how hard is it to and I don't want to sound to drop everything and be like, this is what I have to do, because you are a busy man. And how in the world do you do it?
Practice. Lots of practice. It's pretty much, I have what I need to do during the day. I do cooking, cleaning, laundry, such and so forth and whatnot. But then after my designated hours, then it's the best way I can say it's spotty. That's the best way I think I can say it. Um, to where if I get a phone call because I'm needed, then I have, oh, look, gotta go, gotta take care of this. And I say, I'll be back in a second. And I go take care of it. It's usually something like, could I have something to drink? Or could I get a snack? Or, could you go get this for me? Or whatever. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine.
Raven said lots of coffee.
You know what? That is a favorite drink, because from what I hear, I make the best coffee this side of the Mississippi. So it's one of those things that hey, when you're good at something, you do it.
Now, my thing is, and we had to, when my grandparents passed away, our parents became the sole provider of taking care of them, and for them, I mean, to do it 5 years straight, when they've got dementia and Alzheimer's and whatever else, on top of being, the grandparents, what that does to the mind. How much of a psychic toll does this take on you? And when it does, what do you do? Or when and if it does, what do you do?
Right. No, I get what you're saying. Basically, I can just tell you what I do about it. I remind myself of my own mortality. That at any moment, I could be next one on the chopping block, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I need to leave my footprint to the best of my ability and try to teach people as much as I can for the time that I have. So I have to understand that I don't have time to wallow in self-pity. I don't have time to feel sorry for myself for situations that may be at hand. That I have to, as they say, what is the phrase now? Put 10 toes down and stand on business. And I've got to get stuff done. And I know that things have to be done, and I have to organize my time and schedule appropriately. And that's basically what I keep telling myself is, don't fail. To fail myself is to fail them, because then I'm not going to be able to be there for them in the way and the capacity that maybe they need me. And that might sound like a lot of self-pressure, but if you believe in yourself, there's nothing that you won't be able to do. Before we got started, I told you that I wanted you to live by a moniker. I wanted you to make a T-shirt.
Yes.
And I wanted you to wear this T-shirt. And this T-shirt simply had 2 words on it, and it said, I can't. Now, the word can't was an acronym. It wasn't just C-A-N-T the way you spell it. Mm-hmm. It was C.A.N.T. And do you want to tell the folks what I said can't stands for?
No, you can. You can.
I wanted to see if you actually wrote it down. I guess maybe you didn't write it down.
No, we did. We did.
Okay.
Conquering all negative thought.
There you go. Conquering all negative thoughts. So that's what I have to do on a daily basis. I have to wear my own T-shirt that says I can't. I conquer all negative thoughts. So if you can live by that moniker, saying that I can conquer all negative thoughts that come through my mind, whether it's self or if it's something else that happens to be surrounding you, if you can conquer it, there is nothing you can't achieve.
Do you believe in your lifetime of what you've conquered so far, or what you've accomplished so far? Does there have to be a time, or must there be a time, where Captain Jack Morgan has to come first? You have to, because you have to take care of yourself first, or love yourself first before you can love anybody else.
I think indirectly it already happens. Because if I honestly want to give advice to someone, if somebody asks me for advice, what good is the advice that I'm giving if I don't believe in myself and I don't love who I am as a person? Now that doesn't mean that I'm full of myself and whatever,
Right,
that I feel that I'm better than anyone else. It
right,
just means that I know in my heart of hearts that I'm a good person. I can provide, I'm either your best friend or your worst enemy. Choose wisely, kind of one of those things. So, with that being said, it's it's really just the self accomplishment is helping others, and it helps me, I guess, in that way, love myself more when I have given some advice. Somebody heeds the advice, deals with the advice, and is successful with the advice. Then that's my thanks. That's my praise, and it lets me know, hey, you know what? You're not as stupid as you look. I'm meaning myself, not them.
I've got to go to something we were talking off air a little bit about, um, just the you don't see yourself as this great leader. I talk to you about, I get told I'm a leader all the time, but I never saw it. You get
Right.
told that you're inspirational and you're this and you said to me, I just do. I just,
Okay.
I put one foot in front of the other, or one wheel in front of the other, so to speak, for me, and just kind of, I do what needs to be done. Where did that come from for you? What spark kind of set that off?
Well, it started a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Ah,
I was I was a young pup, I guess you could say. I was around anywhere between 15 to 17 years old, and my friends and I would hang around the local shopping mall.
Hmm.
And we were called lovingly back then as mall rats. That's what we were called.
Yes.
And literally, we had a group of our friends that was like 20 strong, but then those 20 knew another 20, and that 20 knew another. So that we had almost, I'd say, about 150 to 200 of us at any given time that could be there at that mall populating it. It was absolutely insane.
Wow.
Now, you may wonder, well, how does that answer the question? I'll tell you how. A number of them, for whatever ungodly reason, would come to me and ask me for advice. Like if I was some 85-year-old philosopher that knew what the hell I was talking about, they were coming to me and asking for advice about school, relationships, parents, friends, whatever. I'm like, do you see Dr. Phil tattooed on my forehead, for crying out loud? Because I don't know what the blazing you're wanting to come to me for. But for whatever reason, I mean, back then drugs were a popular thing. I've never done them, but they must have done tons of them because they kept coming to me and they kept listening to what I said. And it was a weird number, and I still would really love to see this math, but they gave me a 94% success ratio. That they said the advice I gave them was solid,
Hmm.
structured, and when they followed it, 94% of the time it was successful. And I said, thank you, but now you're going to have to start paying me more than a nickel. My name is not Lucy Van Pelt.
I'm laughing because I want to read this comment that Raven put up. Loving oneself is a challenge, but with time, if we accept ourselves, we can love others. We can't love others with our. I think that was
Without loving ourselves
I think
first.
that was supposed to be out loving ourselves first. So true, Raven. Um,
That's so true.
I want to say this. It is Your story is remarkably similar to mine in the fact I didn't have 100 people, but everybody in school, I was known as the kid that could help anybody. I They would come to me and what should I do? I'm chasing the girl, trying to get the girl to go out with me, and she's asking me for advice about her boyfriend. I'm going, really, really, like just dump him and go with me. No, I can't do that. See, I have to be real and give and give. I agree, Louis. I agree. This is you were a kid ahead of your time, and everybody said you should be a psychiatrist because you're good at solving problems. But the first thing I'd be doing is, Lord, this kid came in today. I couldn't, I couldn't do it, but I did do it. Now I don't know if I had a 94%, success rate, but I believe it because your ability to solve problems, and it may be, because of being the CEO of Morgan Enterprises and the experience that you have. But we have a lot of the same experience in customer service. I've been in customer service 20 years. Walmart, Lowe's, McDonald's, Chick-fil-A. I've been there. I literally, I love the fact that you care for people first before you give one whiff about yourself. And it just, I don't know. Do you think, but you don't see yourself as this exceptional motivator. You just see yourself as, I've got to, ask, where did Captain Jack come from? How did you get the name Captain Jack? If you can go into that.
Absolutely. It's very simple, really. It's very simple. I've been a fan of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies since they came out. I've loved them. The character that Johnny Depp plays, Captain Jack Sparrow, to me, it's one of the funniest characters that I've seen. I love the way that he speaks, and I love the way that he does all of his antics and whatnot. To me, it's hilarious. I love it. So that's the Captain Jack part. The Morgan part comes in because my favorite drink in the entire world is Captain Morgan Spiced Rum. So I just combined the two and put it as Captain Jack Morgan, because Captain played a double meaning, Captain Jack, and then Captain Morgan. So it worked out really good, and just, Captain Jack Morgan. There you go.
You couldn't just say my middle name was Jack. I mean,
no, I couldn't say that at all. I absolutely could not say that. Because I wasn't going to lie to anyone. So
I love it. I love it. Do you remember the what is it? The orange? Oh gosh, they made the flavor the orange spice or whatever it is. Walmart used to carry it. It was like the Captain. I mean, it was Captain Jack. Oh gosh, spicy orange or something like that. I love that. Because I don't drink often, but when I do, that's kind of where I go. It's.
If you really want an interesting beverage to try, I mean, I am not trying to promote any alcohol, drugs, or tobacco on your show. Just putting that out, a little disclaimer. I'm not promoting them. I'm just saying, if you're over 21, drink responsibly. A little bit of help there as well for all your critics or whatnot. But if you really want a nice one, take the Crown Royale, the peach flavored. Get the peach flavored Crown Royale. Get some regular rum chata, and take a little splash of Fireball for the cinnamon, and you have peach cobbler.
Oh wow! And then Goddess will pick me up off the floor, and that's the rest of it right there.
Actually, what she'll probably do is she'll probably strap you to the back of your own chair and then ride the wheelchair into the room, dragging your drunk carcass down the hallway as you're going, I was drinking all the rum, Captain Jack, and it's your fault.
I just go, I'm perfectly fine, but look, I'm walking.
Why is the rum gone?
I love it.
I did crash into Applebee's and broke the glass.
Oh yeah, that's a story for another day. But exactly. I will tell you this. I know quite a few of people that are caregivers, and I know one of my other mentors that allowed me to have this show almost 7 years ago now. She is a caregiver, and I say again, to do this 24/7, it literally takes a person with a heart of gold and knowing you for what, a little over 90 days, a little over 180 days, somewhere in there.
Yes, your warranty is now expired, by the way.
Yeah, now I'm a full-fledged member. Now
Now you're stuck with me. Sorry.
I don't have to buy the warranty, but
that's right.
I literally sometimes will listen to you speak and go, God, to pick his brain for 20 minutes would be astronomical, because people have forgotten how to think for themselves. And I think we rely too much on society's persuasion of us or interpretation of us to live. And it literally, I don't care what disability you have, I don't care what problem you have. If you want something bad enough, you can succeed.
I will agree with you, with the exception of one point. I'm just going to change a little bit of the wording that you said in the beginning, and I have a feeling you'll agree with me on this. In the beginning, you said that people have a hard time thinking for themselves. Correct?
Yes, sir.
I think it should be more worded. I think people have a problem thinking about themselves too much and not thinking about what it's doing to the other people. And if they actually would open their hearts and talk to the other people and try to work something out, then they can say they've actually grown.
I would agree. I would agree. 100%. And it's not, I'm just tired of, when I did the last show with Raven, we talked about this. So many people look to people for the answer to their problem, where they don't even look at the question they're asking themselves. I believe that we are our biggest critics, and we place more blame on ourselves about how we look, how we act, where we should be. And TV and society doesn't help, because you got models and everything looking at every magazine and this, that, and the other. If we could just learn to be people and stop worrying about what everybody else thought, I believe society and the earth would be a lot better a place to be in.
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you can just talk to one person, and if you can improve their life in some aspect, then you're changing the world. It's just as simple as that, because it has a domino effect on people. Yeah. If you end up making people think or reevaluate maybe some negative thoughts that they may have had, and they start putting out more positive situations with themselves, more positive thoughts, more positive premises for their situations that they're in, you've changed the world. And a lot of people get the misconception that, well, if I'm going to try to change the world, I have to change thousands of people. No, you don't.
No,
you don't. Here's a classic case of that one right now. If you're driving down, you might wonder where the analogy is going, but I'll tell you really quick. If you're driving down the road and you see a billboard that says "Eat at Joe's" and it's a hamburger on there, and it says, "Man, that's a pretty tasty looking burger. I'm going to have to go check out Joe's restaurant one of these days." But you pass by this billboard every day and you still haven't gone to Joe's. But yet, about a week later, your buddy calls you and says, "Oh my goodness, I went to Joe's and had his burger. It is absolutely phenomenal. You need to get one." And later that day, you go to Joe's and you order that burger. One person told one person one thing, and it changed their life. Now that person is going to now spread the word and tell more people, and they're going to tell more people, and so on and so forth. It creates a domino effect of positivity.
It does.
So you don't have to tell 1,000 people. You can just tell one person, and you can get the message across to the entire world.
But that's with a positive effect. You have to be careful, because the same thing can happen with the negative effect, and those dominoes start falling.
That's where one absolutely needs to believe in themselves. If you can believe, like what Raven said from before, you have to love yourself. If you love yourself, then it goes back to my t-shirt, the "I can't." conquering all negative thought.
And I want to broach one thing on negativity. When I brought the 15th of January, when I brought my CP does not define me back, I had Edwina Wilson on this show. She is my internet mom. She is my mentor, my mom, my friend. She is a person that eliminates negative thoughts from her life. Now, I'm not saying she doesn't have bad days. And I'm saying this to the people watching. The power of the mind is a very, very important thing. People say words don't hurt. That's a lie. People say words can't have negative actions. That's a lie. And I'm saying that because when it's implied with the thought of it happening, that's when it causes the most pain. But Edwina was able to, from a very early age, start realizing.
I wrote it down.
That you don't need negativity in your life. You need positivity in your life. You can even get positivity out of a negative situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the old classic, the yin and the yang. You have to have one, or else you can't have the other.
Mm.
It's just like for people who are religious. If you believe in God, then you have to believe in the devil, because you cannot have one without the other. Because there's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days.
True.
So to have 100% positivity, it's never going to happen. That will never happen. And I really hope it never happens for anyone to have 100% positivity, because then you don't know what real life really is. You've never really experienced real life. Now, if you have positive days, that's great. If you have negative days, what are you going to do about the negative days to try to turn them into a positive? That's where you learn. That's where you grow.
Amen.
Well, I'll tell you what, Louie just hit a home run. If you make people think they hate you, but if you make them think they're thinking they love you, terrible conundrum. You know what? I love this. I love this. Yet is wow.
I don't understand what he meant by that.
Well, it's kind of the where you're taking the thought. You can make them. They're either going to hate you, or love you. It's. I agree. I love this.
I see what he's saying there. If you make people think, well, then now they're going to hate you because you've now made them think. They don't want to think. They're happy in their own little bubble. But if you make them think that they're thinking, they could end up loving you for the thought process of getting them to actually expand their minds.
Okay, now I understand.
And sometimes, and Captain Jack was sharing this off air a little bit, sometimes it only takes talking to a person for them to feel better. Sometimes talking to a person for 20 minutes and just listening to them. You don't even have to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Being that ear for them, they go, you really helped me today. Ego can be a good thing. Most people think it's something bad. That's wrong. True, Charles, it can. Charles has been one of the fans of my show since it first came out 7 years ago. And this young man has stuck by me, gosh, ever since, from karate on. And I really appreciate having him here. Thank you for being here, Charles. Louie, you as well. Kayla, everybody, Paulina, Raven. I'll tell you, to have fans like this and to have a show like this where we're talking about things that are hard to hear. A lot of us put our own way of thinking against ourselves. We stop ourselves before we even start taking that first step. And I think one of the things that Captain Jack has said with conquering all negative thought is it really does take it. You have to take it with you every step of your life, because every step of your life, there's always somebody trying to. There's always going to be somebody that has more than you, or has it worse than you, or vice versa. But you've got to be at your pace. You don't have to be at everybody else's pace. It's your life, not theirs.
Exactly. Exactly. I would like to touch a little bit on what Charles said on his comment regarding the ego. To a certain extent, I agree with you. However, it depends on where you take that ego. Like, for example, we know that DJ is a black belt in karate.
Mhm.
Now, he has confidence in himself. Confidence is a style of ego, but it's a positive style of ego.
Yes, sir.
There's another way that they say for negative, and that's convinced. Now, if you're convinced that you're really good and nobody can beat you, now that's a bad ego, and that's not proper for you. You should never have that type of ego. So when you can have an ego, but whenever you have an ego, you're balancing on the fence between good and not good, good and bad, or good and I should say good and ugly. I should say, because if you're confident, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being confident. If you're convinced, well, you're not necessarily a person that I would want to be around if you're convinced that you're better than everyone else. Because I'll tell you one thing right now, I don't think of myself to be better than anyone. I am just me. If you like me, great. If you don't, well, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. I'm going to continue going on doing what I do and enjoying what I do. And if one day you decide you want to give me a chance to show you that I am a decent individual, now, I'm not attacking Charles by any stretch of the imagination. I really hope he doesn't think I am. I'm just, putting out a point that I don't think I'm necessarily better than anyone else, but I am confident in what I can do. I'm confident in my abilities of what I can do, being a friend, being a mentor, being a teacher, if you place the title on me. And it's kind of funny how you say that I should have been a psychiatrist. Well, I actually majored in child psychology in college.
I knew it.
I did too.
I knew it.
So,
I literally, I told Kim, I said that he has to have a degree in psychology. There's no way that he can diagnose the way he does. It's just, and it's not the doctor going, It's more you call what you see, and I've got medical knowledge. My mom was an LPN. My stepmom was an NP. I've got medical knowledge coming out of my middle finger, but it's what you do with that knowledge and how you use that knowledge to help people or to move it forward. Which brings me to the question. We talked a little bit earlier in the show about that 94% success rate.
Mm-hmm.
When you were at that mall and all those people ask you for all that advice and you got that success rate, what did you do then with that title or success that you had? Where did you go with it, and how did it change you as an individual from then until now?
I actually took it to my uncle, who was a professor at a junior college. And I let him know, just kind of as joke and conversation that we had, what people were telling me. And he said, well, that there's a class for child psychology over at this college. And I said, really? Well, I thought, well, wouldn't that be any different? Wouldn't, regular psychology, the psychiatry be something? He said, well, you could be taking that for 10 years, child psychology. Back in the day, it was a maximum of 4 is what you had to take it for. And why they figured that children only needed 4 and adults need 10. I don't know. Maybe adults are just more screwed in the head, I guess you could say. The children didn't have as many problems. I mean, I don't know. But back in the day, that's what it was. So I thought, all right, I'll go ahead and give that a whirl. And it was just very fascinating to sit through the classes and, to listen to the professors talk about things and how they describe things and how they would point out certain characteristics of people and how they acted. And I found it interesting that a lot of the characteristics that children show, adults show as well. And it just was very interesting. And it made me very intrigued to learn as much as I could regarding that. I will point this one out, though. For when it comes to doctors, I've never been a fan of doctors, and the reason why, it's very unnerving that what they do, they still call practice. I mean, shouldn't they know already what the hell they're doing? I mean, seriously.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little scary.
I've got to say this out loud because it when you have any type of and you major when you're able to major in child psychology, that's tough because the mind of a child can go many places, and to be able to harness that ability and to take it and then nurture it or develop it or understand where the child is coming from and get the problem out of, well, this happened to me and this happened to me, because there's a lot of fear in this world. A lot of people don't do things or won't ask for help due to fear that somebody's going to blab their information.
Mm-hmm.
And fear controlled me for a long time. You know, I don't talk about my life a lot on this show when it comes to, my story. I've told my story before, but I will say this. When I was little, I was afraid of everything. And you get to the point, for me, you get to the point of being tired of being afraid all the time. And you just say, screw it. If the vacuum cleaner eats me, the vacuum cleaner eats me.
Huh?
If I go down the drain, I go down the drain. If that dog bites me, the dog bites me. But in that knowledge, you go, the world is not so bad. Why are we so afraid all the time? So let me bring that psychological point to you, Captain Jack, just to ask, why is there so much fear involved in simple situations?
To me, it has to do a lot with the upbringing. The parents, like they say, there is no such thing as a bad student, only bad teachers. Because the student is there to learn. The student's there to learn. The teacher is there to teach. But if the teacher doesn't seem to care what the student is learning and doesn't care to try to mold their minds in the direction that they really should be going, then the student is lost. Like, for example, this is a very touchy subject to talk about, but I'm not going to dabble into it, but it's just an example. Racism. Mm-hmm. Nobody's ever born a racist. You are taught to be one. One of my dearest friends growing up was black. I didn't see a color in his skin. I saw a little boy who was hanging out with another little boy, me, swinging on the swings, going to the monkey bars, running up and down the pyramid, that had all the tubes around it. You can slide down the middle. Mm-hmm. Playing handball, playing dodgeball, kicking the soccer ball. It didn't matter. I didn't care where you were from. As long as you like to have fun, taking our dirt bikes down to the creek where the trestle was and going through the water, splashing around, taking our BB guns and go lizard hunting. These were things we used to do as kids for fun. And it didn't matter what color you were. It didn't matter what religion you were. It didn't matter if you were a boy or a girl. If you had fun, who cared? You're taught to be racist. You're taught to dislike certain religions. You're taught to not like males or females. You're taught these things. And the teachers are usually the parents, the aunts, the uncles, the ones close to home. And if I agree with a quote that Morgan Freeman said when he was being interviewed by a Jewish interviewer. I always say that simply because his religion got brought up by Morgan Freeman during the interview. Mm-hmm. The man asked Morgan Freeman, well, how do we get past racism? Morgan Freeman said, well, stop talking about it. Uh-huh. He said, I'm going to stop calling you a white man, and I would appreciate it if you stop calling me a black man. To me, I see you. Exactly. And you see me, Morgan Freeman. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Why is that so hard of a concept for people to learn? It makes no sense why people can't just understand. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what you're into. If you're a decent person to me and you show me respect, then guess what? I will be a decent person to you and I will show you respect.
Beautiful.
And that's the way I've lived my life. Look at Morgan Enterprises.
Mhm.
Do you remember looking around the table? How diverse was it in all aspects? There were men, there were women, there were people of color, there was disabled individuals.
Mhm.
There were people of all walks of life from all different things. And we welcome that because guess what? As a collective group, our minds are what we're working with. Not whether or not we're white, black, male, female, disabled or not. That's not what we're working with. We're working with our minds and what we can build and what we can create inside the metaverse.
Mm.
Just like off camera, I talked to you about that one gentleman. I want to say his name is Fox Gaming. I'm sorry if I screwed up your name, but I remember your first name is Fox. I really want you to talk to this lad because I think he's got something going for him. And I suggested he talk to you because I think you and him, especially being in the same state, which blew my mind, you guys could probably come up with something so spectacular that I cannot wait to see you guys patent your new invention, and I cannot wait to see you guys on the cover of the Forbes 500 magazine because you are multi-millionaires because of just one little idea.
And saying that, just to touch on it a little bit, it only takes one idea to get started.
Amen.
Yes, it does. It only takes a spark to light a fire.
Yes. And my mother has said that to me. My grandmother has said that to me several times. But that idea, Steve Harvey said this: the previews in your mind are the coming attractions of your life.
True.
And no one can take those previews from you because they're in your mind. So if you want to be a teacher, be a teacher. If you want to be a motivator, be a motivator. If you want to be a great blue shirt wearing talk show host, by God, be that great blue shirt wearing great talk show host. If you want to be Captain Jack Morgan, here's how. I mean, I shows like these, by the time they're over, I go, man, I wish we had 2 hours. Because that's why a lot of times when I have a show like this, I'll bring a guest back because they're so impactful. And I don't do that with everybody. I believe that people have abilities within them that they hold down because they think it's not needed. If we stopped doubting ourselves and started changing a can into a can by dropping the T and get it done, or conquering all negative thought, there's your plug right there. Just wanted to, it is ability that gets it done. Now, I've got about 12 minutes left in this show, and I want to do this with Captain Jack because this game is called 20 Questions, Captain Jack, and it really is. I'm not going to ask all 20, but I want to ask just a couple. Captain Jack, what is your favorite sound?
My favorite sound. A favorite sound, unfortunately, that I have has no actual sound at all. It is the look on somebody's face when they've accomplished something and they take great pride in their accomplishment when they're smiling. That's my favorite sound because what it does, it warms my heart and it makes my ears kind of get that ringing noise in it from you get the blood flow going from your happiness. So it creates that noise that's in the middle of your ear, and it has no sound. So somebody smiling from a positive accomplishment.
What is your least favorite sound?
Well, I could have said right there, probably would have gotten your show canceled. So I'm not going to say that one. Negative speech. Negative speech towards individuals. I know this is getting really technical. I know you were looking for simple answers, but come on now. When have I been a simple person?
Actually, I love it. Captain Jack, non-cursing, what is your favorite word?
Well, S word. You just screwed me over on that one. And probably would be my opening greeting. Greetings and salutations.
I love it.
What is your least favorite word?
It actually would be a combination of words. I can't or I won't.
I love it. I love it.
Or I didn't.
No, not to say those words in front of him.
Captain Jack, what makes you smile?
Other people's success.
What makes you frown?
My own personal failures.
What is your favorite number and why?
22. That one's an easy one. I wore that all throughout my scholastic career in every organized sport that I ever played. Baseball, football, basketball. I wore the number 22.
Wow. Captain Jack, you walk into a restaurant and it's full of laughter and food, and a certain smell comes across your nose. What would your favorite smell be?
My favorite. So you're speaking of food then, in general, for my favorite smell.
Any smell. Any smell.
All right. Well, my favorite smell in that fashion would have to be a backyard barbecue.
Mm.
I'm not going to ask what your least favorite smell is because I know that one.
If you pass gas in front of me, that would be my least favorite smell. I'll tell you that right now.
I knew that was coming. I want to. If you had $1 million right now in front of you, and you could do anything in the world. Matter of fact, if you could do anything in the world right now and money was no object, what would you do?
And money was no object.
Money was no object.
Well, people think it's a cheesy answer, but build a better mousetrap in a way. What I would do is I would try to find locations that I could actually build either cheap housing or a warehouse that I could hire a bunch of workers and try to feed the homeless and house them and get them off the street. I myself, at 17 years old, was a year and a half on the street. I lived under a bridge. And I didn't like it. Now I have a house, I have a car, I drive a sports car, for crying out loud. And I'm doing fairly well for myself because I managed to turn my life around. But there are so many others that don't and that can't. I would love to be able to sit down and talk to each one of these individuals and try to help them better their lives if I can. Find out what they need, what makes them tick, and then send them in the direction that they may need to go. Like maybe some of them are computer smart and they know what to do to build a computer. All right, they've never had a chance. Well, here's this school that teaches this. I'm going to pay for your tuition. So that way you can go to the school and make something of yourself.
And the last question I have is a two-part question. We've got about 6 minutes left on the show. Is there anything or a message that you would like to share with people, or tell them how they could find you, get a hold of you, get to know you? You have 6 minutes. The floor is yours.
What I would tell people is be patient with one another. You never know what anybody is going through at any given time. For a smile, although it takes a lot more muscles to smile, or excuse me, to frown than it does to smile, people can hide behind that smile because of the direction that the mouth is pointing. It gives people the wrong impression in the form that they believe everything's all right with you. A smile shows a lot of sunlight, and that sunlight blinds the darkness that's behind you. So always be kind and always be patient with one another, because you never know what anyone is going through at any given time.
That's true.
One kind word that you can say can help change a person's life in the positive. You can make them reevaluate their worth by just telling each other how much you care for one another and how much you will be there for them. And this one always got me as a kid, because quite frankly, it wasn't told to me very often, but when it is told to me, it always kind of gets me. And I will tell you right now on the radio, out of the live, DJ, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for making something of yourself. I'm proud of you for trying that extra step when you thought that you couldn't do it, but you never gave up on yourself. And for that, I am honored to be your teacher and want to continue to teach you to build, because I know you have the brilliance and the light inside of you, and I can see it. And everyone else should too.
Well, I, my God,
You got him crying.
I don't get emotional on this show often. I've done 160s of these and probably gotten emotional in 10 or 12. I'm not afraid to be emotional. I'm not afraid of my emotions. I was for a long time, but to hear the sincerity, there's when you get a guest on a show that is sincere about who he is, what he does, and where he comes from, you just got to sit there, shut up, and listen, because it's a story that deserves to be told. I would love to have Captain Jack on for a part two. Um, I'm gonna have Raven on for a part two, and it just it I'm so honored, to turn it around and say how honored he is to be on my show. I'm so honored to have him because of the things in the short amount of time that we've known each other that we've already accomplished. I I was not sure really what I wanted to do with virtual reality in virtual reality. The more time I spend with Captain Jack and the Captain Jack family, Morgan Enterprises, I I find myself devoting more and more time for it, not because of what happens, but because of the possibilities in the what is going to happen. And when you get a group of people that have, or you get a group of great minds together, you're able to accomplish many things. To close out the show, I want to say thank you to Captain Jack Morgan. I want to say we do want to have you back. We'll schedule you in for a couple months later. Give some other people some chances to be on. If you want to be a guest on the show, please email me at carterdj85@gmail.com. Include your name in the subject and a 5 to 10 sentence bio of yourself. Please don't write a book because I'm not going to read it all. Just because you email me does not mean you're going to be on the show. I have to interview you before. I want to thank all of our guests. Louis, thank you. The Sit Down Podcast Show, Raven, Paulina, Charles, Kayla. Goodness gracious, we've had so many.
How many people are on here? This is great. I love it.
We've had as many as 15, but this is great. We're getting questions and comments, and it's so awesome. I'm sorry that it's only an hour, but I try to keep it that way. We'll be back for episode 161 next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Captain Jack, just stay with me as we go off the air for a moment. Yep, I realize that, Charles, but I was acknowledging the podcast there. But thank everybody for your comments. Please share this video. This video needs to get out there. Share it in your groups. Share it in your podcast. Share it in your like pages, guys. The more we share this, the more the Facebook community, the Instagram community, not just on Instagram, but YouTube, go and check my podcast out. It's 7 years worth of shows on podcast, 6 years worth of show on podcast now, 161 episodes, 160 episodes, and damn good ones, I may say. If you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it. This is D to the J with a roll away saying we'll see you next week.
Bye.